Question number 3, Andrew Little.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. Does he stand by his statement, quotes, "I expect high standards from my ministers and I hope they maintain those standards. If they don't, then obviously I will take action if necessary"?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, yes, I do.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Does Paula Bennett's failure to ensure that families have houses to live in meet with his high standards?
The Right Honourable Prime
Mr.
Minister.
Speaker, I reject the proposition.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Was it in keeping with his standards for Paula Bennett's office to smear a Marae for doing what she has failed to do, namely helping homeless families?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the government's made it quite clear, the Minister and myself, that we don't condone the actions of the staff member. But Mr. Speaker, we're also aware that the Minister was not aware that the staff member had spoken to a journalist. As soon as she became aware of that, she apologised.
Supplementary.
Order. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Was it in keeping with his standards for Paula Bennett to mislead the media by saying the homeless don't want help?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I haven't seen that quote and I need to see the context in which it was made.
Bring that back next week. Supplementary.
Supplementary question. Order.
Does Nick
Order.
Smith,
Just waiting. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
does Nick Smith's failure to do anything to stabilise house prices and arrest the fall in home ownership meet with his high standards?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if I contrast the actions of Nick Smith as Minister of Housing with the Ministers of Housing in the previous Labor government, then I have great pride in the work he's doing, because at least he's doing things. And while I'm a little reluctant to read too much into 1 month's data, we can see even today that Auckland house prices going up a little less than the rest of the country.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Was it in keeping with his standards for Nick Smith to blame the housing crisis on Kiwis for not being educated enough while protecting foreign speculators that Minister Smith says do diddly squat?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, members just making it up.
Supplementary.
Order.
What part? Diddly squat?
Order. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Does anyone in his government take responsibility for anything anymore, or is it just an endless exercise in passing the buck?
The Right Honourable
Speaker,
Prime
of course,
Minister.
the government takes responsibility. We take responsibility for the fact that the country is growing strongly. We take responsibility for the fact that the books are back in order. We take responsibility for the fact that we're the first government in decades to raise benefits. We take responsibility that under this government that the refugee quota will be raised. We take responsibility for the fact that through the worst of times we stood behind the most vulnerable New Zealanders. We take responsibility for the fact that we stood behind the people of Christchurch. We take responsibility for the fact that we have undertaken more elective...
Order. Question. Order. Question number 4.